Well, folks, it took 11 picks before we finally took our first loss of the season and actually our first losing week of the season, going 2-3 in the third week of the NFL season. But our record still stands strong at 11-3-1, just shy of 80%. And we have four more picks coming up for week four as we step into the janitor's closet. My name is Bryce Hunt, joined as always by lead football analyst Josh Frey-Sam.
Bryce, I'm doing great, man. I'm We're hanging in here, and it was a tough week last week, but listen, those weeks are gonna happen, right? And that's just part of the betting, and it's just a matter of obviously not making it a trend. Hopefully, let's just make it a one-off here, and let's get back on track. And I think we're on our way to doing that here this week with four good plays here. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it was really one game that got us last week with Dallas and Arizona, but seems like that
Yeah,
got a lot of people. Really can't predict that with how those teams were playing coming into the week. We'll brush it off. We move forward.
the
We've been on
NFL.
the right side of it to much more than we haven't.
That's right.
So let's get right into it. A couple housekeeping things before we get going here, folks. We want to remind you that all these plays are coming on Bet365. We are currently recording this on Wednesday, September 27th for the Sunday slate of week four. We don't have a play on Thursday. So all of these plays are pending injuries at practice throughout the week. Any major lineup changes that happen beyond this point, we will be pulling plays if we need, and also adding plays if we see an opportunity come up. You can follow us at TJC Bets, where we will be updating any lines that we see fit. So go ahead and follow us on Twitter or X if you are making that adjustment at TJC Bets. And if you like the picks, if we're helping you build that bankroll so far in that NFL season, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We saw a pretty good wave of support this last week. So we see
Yeah.
it and we appreciate all the comments and the likes and the subscribers. So without further ado, Josh, let's get into our plays. The reason the people are here, we got four of them, and we are very confident in these four. We're
Mm.
getting the suitcases for the road teams this week, a little bit of a theme. We'll get into it, starting with Seattle, traveling to New York, or I guess not New York because they don't play in New York, but to face the
East
Giants. We
East
have
Rutherford,
Seattle,
yes.
East Rutherford, Seattle, and the Giants. Josh, what's going on here?
Yeah, so we're gonna this one, Bryce, we're gonna keep riding with the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, we've been riding with them all season. They've, I think, failed us once last week in that first half bet against Carolina, which was really I'm actually I didn't regret making that pick for a second. Those who watched the game against the Carolina Panthers, like Seattle Seahawks had what, like 4 or 5 red zone trips in the first half, and all those were field goals. So it was kind of like the opportunities were there. The offense has been clicking. They just weren't able to cash in until the second half. So we're going to continue riding with the Seattle Seahawks here. We're going to take them +1. Really confusing as to why they're underdogs in this situation. I know that the Giants, Saquon Barkley is rumored to have a shot to come back, which would obviously be a huge boost for the New York Giants. But at the same time, on the Seattle Seahawks side of things, they were banged up last week against the Carolina Panthers, and they're hopefully getting some guys back this week as well. On offense, they're looking really good. Hopefully, maybe even this weekend they can get Charles Cross back, along with all their weapons that they have there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, one name that maybe we forgot about a little bit, Jamal Adams. He's used to playing over there in East Rutherford when he was with the New York Jets. Fans will remember. So Jamal Adams has a chance of making his 2023 debut this weekend. Hopefully he does, which would obviously be just a massive boost to the Seattle Seahawks defense. But aside from that, Seattle in this spot, we're just taking the better team here. And Seattle's been battle tested so far. They proved that they are a good team. They're one to be reckoned with again this season. I like Seattle in this spot big time, and that's why we're riding with them +1.
Absolutely. You alluded to it a little bit last week with their play in Carolina. Couldn't punch it in the first half there, but boy did they break out in that second half. And
No
that's
doubt.
kind of the team that we expected to see, and that's kind of the team we're expecting to see. And on the flip of that, the Giants and their first half woes dating back even to week one with that
Yeah.
game against Dallas, and week two they struggled against the Cardinals in the first half as well. So
Yeah.
the first play is going to be Seattle Seahawks +1. Moving to our next play, We have the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Tennessee for a date with the Titans, Josh.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals that was a really encouraging performance that they had there just on Monday night against the Rams, right? I think Joe Burrow, him being able to make it through an entire game without, at least in his words, re-aggravating, re-tweaking, or seriously injuring himself, that calf once again, I think that's huge news. And we finally saw that offense starting to click. And it was just a matter of time. We knew that. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all the weapons that they have, we knew it was only a matter of time. Now, on the Tennessee Titans side of things, they're kind of banking on this front seven to make like every single play possible. I mean, Derrick Henry is not looking the same. That offensive line isn't helping. Ryan Tannehill looks horrendous. I got a couple buddies who are calling for Will Levis to get in the game at this point. I don't even know if he's dressing for half these games. The offense is atrocious. The defense, especially on the back end, is not very good as well, and that kind of bodes well for the Cincinnati Bengals in this spot, given they are about as pass happy as any team in the NFL. With that being said, we're going to take the Cincinnati Bengals minus 2.5. If you can get this at 2.5, that's obviously perfect, because then you can hopefully just bank on the field goal here. I could see it being a close game, just based on the Tennessee Titans. The matchup that I'm most, I guess, cautious or weary of in this game is the Tennessee Titans front defensive line, front seven, against the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, which has proven to be suspect, even though despite how much they've invested in that line over the past couple of seasons. With that being said, I do expect the Cincinnati Bengals to kind of account for that. They got the better weapons. They clearly outmatched the Tennessee Titans secondary. I really do think this is going to be an air show, and I expect Joe Burrow, as long as he doesn't re-aggravate that calf, I expect this to be an air show and him to put up some big time numbers here. So I'm confidently taking the Cincinnati Bengals purely on the fact that I really do think that they're just simply going, as stupid as it sounds, they're going to be able to outscore the Tennessee Titans here. This isn't going to necessarily be a defensive battle in my mind, but at the same time, the Tennessee Titans offense just is not going to be able to keep up with this at one point or another. I really do believe Cincinnati should be able to squeak this out, even if it is just by a field goal here.
This is a game that if you looked at it before the start of the season, you would think that this line was really a lot closer to a full touchdown than it would be to a field goal, or even above, in favor of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
We're banking on Joe Burrow kind of being back to his old self and continuing to get better now that they've got a golf cart able to take him to the practice field, which was quite an improvement, to say the least, when your multi-million-dollar quarterback is dealing with a little injury. Nonetheless, we move on to our next play as the Minnesota Vikings travel to Carolina, another team like Seattle. On the flip side, we're starting to sound like a broken record, but we are going to be talking about the Carolina Panthers in this video.
Yeah, we are talking about Carolina. And once again, man, and one of the big reasons we are talking about the Carolina Panthers this time around is because the Carolina Panthers got, I'm going to say, encouraging news. I think they find it encouraging, but I'm not sure for betting purposes, at least. I don't know how encouraging they find it, especially on the offensive side of the ball here. I mean, Carolina, Bryce Young was a full participant in practice today, which him being a full participant in practice this early in the week is really good signs for his ability to play there on Sunday. We've seen the Carolina Panthers offense with Bryce Young at the helm. It just isn't clicking just yet. The receivers' inability to get open. Now, at the same time, that offense was moving last weekend, especially in the first half against the Seattle Seahawks, albeit a banged up Seattle Seahawks defense. But Andy Dalton was willing to force the ball into some tight windows, and obviously that offense looked like actually something somewhat competent. I expect them to revert back to what they were under Bryce Young once Bryce Young is back in there. And obviously, if there is a team for the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young to kind of break out against, it would be the Minnesota Vikings defense. However, the Minnesota Vikings are still waiting on a little breakout of their own here in this scenario. The Vikings have been obviously atrocious in red zone here, and it's been duly noted. This is going to be the game against a banged up Carolina Panthers team. If you've been following us, I've talked about how banged up each and every week the Carolina Panthers are getting worse and worse and worse as far as injuries go. The Minnesota Vikings offense is already potent, and they've been terrible in the red zone. Now I think that they're going to string it together in the red zone, and Carolina is just not prepared for a track meet here. The Minnesota Vikings are prepared for track meets. Carolina is not. With that being said, we are going to hold off on the full game total here, but rather I think Minnesota is going to get off to a quick start. and I'm going to take We're going to take Minnesota first half -2.5. Carolina now on top of all their injuries to Shaq Thompson, J.C. Horn. They've now lost Xavier Woods for multiple weeks for an extended period of time, and potentially their other linebacker in Frankie Louvu, who once Frankie got hurt last week against Seattle, that's when you saw Seattle's offense really take off, was when Frankie was out of the game. You saw Kenneth Walker pop off, all that stuff. So especially if Frankie can't go, but then you also have on the back end Xavier Woods out. The injuries are just too much right now, and Bryce Young led offense is just simply not going to be able to keep up with the Minnesota Vikings, a potent offense. So we're going to confidently take Minnesota first half -2.5 here.
Okay, the Vikings first half -2.5 is the play as we move on to a primetime game, but a game that a lot of people are looking at kind of potentially as the game of the week. There's a lot of attention around both of these teams, but for opposite reasons. The Kansas City Chiefs are heading to the New York Jets to play them during primetime, Josh.
Yeah, I think people could probably guess what we're taking here, but I don't know. Maybe some people are expecting a little bit of surprise. We're going to go Kansas City -9.5, and the reason is pretty simple. Kansas City looked really, really good, obviously, against a struggling Bears team last week, pardon me. That offense popped off. Travis Kelce is obviously fully go. The Swifties are fully go. That offense is fully go. We are fully go with the Kansas City Chiefs here, -9.5. And honestly, this line could have been -11, and I probably would have still looked at it and said, yeah, let's go with it, because the New York Jets right now, that offense is just not doing anything. And let me also just remind people, Kansas City's defense, led by Steve Spagnuolo, though, is really, it's formidable. It's a formidable defense. It should be mentioned in the same breath as the Cleveland Browns right now and the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys right now. Kansas City's defense is for real. And when you're going to put them up against the struggling New York Jets offense, I like our chances there. And the New York Jets defense is obviously the strength of this team. Well, against a hot Kansas City Chiefs offense, maybe they're going to be a little bit struggling out of the gate to break through, but I like my chances with Patrick Mahomes to break through here and cover this spread by at least 10 points. So once again, confidently going to take Kansas City -9.5. This was supposed to be a prime time matchup when Aaron Rodgers was healthy, but this is no longer a prime time matchup now with Zach Wilson at the helm, or Trevor Siemian, or Tim Boyle, whoever the hell is going to be taking over with this team. But we're going to confidently take Kansas City here.
According to Twitter, about 30 minutes prior to us recording this, I have word that Taylor Swift is expected to be in the building. So maybe a little bit extra mojo for Travis Kelce.
Nice.
As we wrap up our straight plays, our fourth and final play, but we do have a little bit of a bonus here from Josh as regarding player props.
Yeah. I think this isn't going to be an official play from us, Bryce, but maybe just letting everybody know. I think everybody likes player props. This is just a reminder. Calvin Ridley, even though it's going to be in London, he's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars are taking on the Atlanta Falcons in London this week. Obviously, Calvin Ridley drafted by the Falcons and then later dealt for some conditional draft picks, which obviously hurt a little bit, I'm sure, while he was undergoing his gambling suspension. Calvin Ridley, though, right now, after the 1 week, the first week there where he popped off, he's been a little bit quiet. There's no better week for him to kind of have a resurgence here. The targets have been there. He's got 26 targets through the first 3 weeks here. So you know that Trevor Lawrence is looking his way. It just hasn't really happened yet. And Calvin Ridley also had a couple of drops last week as well. So he dropped a couple touchdown passes. So you know that Calvin Ridley is going to be really starving to kind of get back on the right track here, as we are this week at the Janitor's Closet. So we're going to ride with Calvin Ridley here. Any of his player props as far as over 5.5 receptions. I really like the over 64.5 yards, and I definitely like for him to get in the end zone there. So just maybe a little bit of a side note for those watching that we're going to be all in on Calvin Ridley this week as he takes on his former team in the Atlanta Falcons.
So not an official play, but we will be sprinkling on Calvin Ridley this week
for sure
to wrap up our plays that we will be counting towards our record here. Seattle +1. Sorry. The Bengals -2.5, Kansas City -9.5, and the Minnesota Vikings first half -2.5. Josh, we're looking to get back back to our winning ways here.
Yeah, man. Let's bring out the brooms and the sunglasses once again. I know I saw in the comments a little bit, a couple people they weren't fans of the sunglasses. Well, I'll tell you, you're gonna be fans of the sunglasses if we get back to our winning ways here. So let's pray that we bring them back out next week.
Absolutely, man. That'll wrap it up for us here, folks. Don't forget, sorry, to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate your support greatly. Feel free to follow us on Twitter or X at TJC Bets, where we will potentially be playing more plays as they come to us. But other than that, that's going to wrap up for our week 4 episode here, Josh.
Absolutely, man. Let's get back at it.
Okay, folks, bet responsibly and happy gambling.